Monsterverse Godzilla, the modern-day titan with millions of fans, having the most complex and interesting lore of any era, and Heisei Godzilla, the mutated dinosaur that turned into Earth's greatest hero. If you saw last week's video, we concluded that Heisei Godzilla would make it pretty far into the Monsterverse. So today we'll be doing the reverse. How far can Monsterverse Godzilla make it into the Heisei era? Now of course, Monsterverse Godzilla will go through a gauntlet just like Heisei did. This gauntlet, in order from least to greatest, is Biollante, Bachellarva, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Super Mecha Godzilla, Space Godzilla, and finally Destoroyah. Without any more wait, let's dive in. How far could Monsterverse Godzilla make it in the Heisei era? First up, we have Biollante. Monsterverse Godzilla would fare well in this fight, due to his speed and combat advantage. The only thing he really has to watch out for is Biollante's tendrils, which can be used to grab and bite onto Godzilla. Though he could end this fight quickly, just like Heisei Godzilla, and shoot a beam into Biollante's mouth, bursting out the other side of her head, killing the giant plant. Just saying, Biollante's an Amulek victim, go cry. Next up, we have Bachellarva, who is widely considered to be more powerful than his grown counterpart. A little fun fact, Bachel's original name was Gigamoth. Though his larva form is very powerful, it only really has one ability, that being his Prism Beam, which is very powerful. And he also has some really good durability, being able to take many of Heisei Godzilla's hits. The thing Monsterverse Godzilla will have to watch out for, as we said, is Bachel's beam and durability. But he should win this fight pretty easily, just due to him being able to quickly overpower the larva. The beam or stomp a few times should do the job. Next is Rodan. Not the fire version, just normal Rodan. The only thing Rodan has going for him is his speed, being able to fly at Mach 3. Much faster than any other titan in the Monsterverse. However, he is very, very weak. All Monsterverse Godzilla has to do is land a beam, or just grab him, since Rodan can only attack close up. Monsterverse Godzilla would do what Heisei did, grabbing him and pummeling him with slaps and scratches, eventually overwhelming and killing Rodan. Next up we have King Ghidorah. This version of King Ghidorah has the normal range of abilities, including flight, gravity beams, hurricane winds, and constricting necks. Luckily for Monsterverse Godzilla, this is pretty much a lighter and smaller version of the Ghidorah he faced back in 2019. Again, Monsterverse Godzilla will make it through, since this version of Ghidorah is relatively slow in comparison to the one in the Monsterverse. And like I already said, he's much lighter and smaller. And I doubt Ghidorah could pick up Godzilla unlike his Monsterverse counterpart. With low difficulty, I can see Monsterverse Godzilla moving on to the next battle. Next, we have Super Mecha Godzilla. This is where Monsterverse Godzilla is going to struggle. Mecha Godzilla, though not agile in the slightest, has an ungodly amount of weapons, which include the Mega Buster, laser cannons, shock anchors, G-crushers, paralyzing missiles, tranquilizing missiles, plasma grenade, diamond coating, and high-power laser beam cannons thanks to Garuda. Firstly, this is practically a 2v1 thanks to Garuda and Mecha Godzilla. Now if we start this fight close up, Monsterverse Godzilla would fare well. But all these fights are starting with a little bit of distance in between them. Though I think Monsterverse Godzilla could close the gap quickly, the new problem is Mecha Godzilla's durability. Monsterverse Godzilla would have a hard time getting through his diamond layer. But I do think he would just barely be able to win this. And when I say barely, I mean barely. I would say Monsterverse Godzilla wins this fight with insane difficulty. Next, we have Space Godzilla. Space Godzilla solos, like, no difficulty at all. Now maybe if he worked together with Mogira to defeat Space Godzilla, then maybe he could win. But even with Mogira, I still doubt they would win. Now before we end, I want to add that there is one kaiju from the Monsterverse that sweeps the Heisei era, even when you bring scaling into things. That being Doug. Sponsor time. Here in front of you today is Spiderhawks Studios version 2 Doug. This figure has the paint job and detail of a Hayatoys figure, and the articulation of an SH Monster Arts. This is all made by hand, starting with the 3D models, to the prints, to the assembly and paint. And guess what? It's cheaper than modern SH Monster Arts figures. And just to add on one small little thing, I helped design this figure. I gave my thoughts on the original Doug to Spiderhawk, and he fixed every little issue, and has now created one of, if not the best figure I own. And I'm not saying this because he's sponsoring this video, I'm being 100% serious. This thing is phenomenal. I will eventually get around to comparing this one to the version 1 as well. This is a fully Godzilla Guy approved figure. If you like anything kaiju related, I promise you'll like Spiderhawk and his work. If you're interested, I'll link Spiderhawk Studios down below, and tell him Godzilla Guy sent you. But just take my word for once. Monsterverse Godzilla is not making it past Space Godzilla in the slightest. This video is a bit shorter than the last one. It's just a lot of the Heisei era kaiju don't really have too many abilities or history like the Monsterverse ones, so I apologize for the short length. As always, keep collecting. Godzilla Guy out. See ya.